Real Madrid plan a clear-out. Sancho is given the green light. Could AC Milan be making their first summer signing? Southampton want Barcelona fullback, and a transfer roundup, all coming up on today's OneFootball Daily News. As I'm your host, Angelina Kelly, let's get into it. First up, and of course, there are rumours circulating about Zinedine Zidane and his future at Real Madrid. But of course, he's not the only person associated with Los Blancos that could be weighing up their options and possibly departing. So according to reports from Sky Sports News, the club are willing to listen to offers for both Gareth Bale and Eden Hazard. So let's start with Gareth Bale. Now, if the club do not manage to get a transfer for him, there are no offers, they don't manage to get a loan deal, etc., he will still be expected to be with Real Madrid after the Euros for pre-season training. Reportedly, the club didn't really want to get rid of him, but if this means getting a little bit of money back into the club, then they're definitely willing to listen to offers. From my perspective, it seems like Gareth Bale does want out. Of course, he has spoken to the media and said that he knows exactly what his plan is, but he's not going to announce it until after the Euros, otherwise it would cause chaos. Now, if you're saying causing chaos, this makes me think that maybe it's not going to be as simple as a simple return back to Madrid. Perhaps he's going to want to depart and move elsewhere, so it will definitely be interesting to see what happens with this one. Then there's Eden Hazard. He scored 5 times since his move 2 years ago to the club in a deal that was reportedly up to about £130 million. So he's only managed to appear 43 times. Of course, he's had injuries that have not helped, but this just definitely hasn't worked out. And apparently the player himself is just not happy in Madrid. So according to a journalist for El Chiringuito TV, he has stated that his heart is not in Madrid, he's really not happy, and also if Mbappe does end up making the move to Real Madrid, which of course has been rumoured, for Hazard, this to him would mean that it's kind of over for him at Real Madrid. He's not going to be able to progress, and apparently he wants to move back to Chelsea. Of course, it worked out the first time at Chelsea. Who's to say it wouldn't work the second time? But then, of course, if his bad form does follow him to Chelsea, that's not going to be great. Of course, there have been no reports yet that Chelsea are 100% interested in Hazard. And at the end of the day, they've got Timo Werner, maybe not great at the moment, but definitely has the potential. If they're reportedly looking at the likes of Erling Haaland, Romelu Lukaku, etc., no disrespect to Hazard, but he's not really falling into the same category as these players at the moment. So I'm not too sure if I could see that move happening. Of course, this is without even discussing the contract negotiations to try and get the likes of Sergio Ramos, Rafael Varane, Nacho, etc. to try and renew, and also players that have been considered a little bit more transferable that will probably be departing, of course, Marcelo, Isco and Mariano, etc. So also there are all of these players that are going to be in the mix as well. With lack of funds, of course, the collapse of the European Super League, Real Madrid need funds and fast. So it definitely makes sense. And of course, if they do want to sign Kylian Mbappe, they're going to need as many coins as they can get. So like I say, I can understand why so many players could be departing from the club. But the question is, will there be plenty of clubs lining up to actually buy some of these players? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Next up, heading to the Bundesliga now, and according to reports from Germany, Jadon Sancho has finally been given the green light by Borussia Dortmund to leave the club. Of course, it was understood that there was some kind of gentleman's agreement between Sancho and the club that he could only leave if the circumstances were right, and it seems like the circumstances are now finally right. Of course, at the time of last season, they did want 120 million euros for Sancho. They've now lessened it down to about 100 million euros. In my head, there's not that much of a difference, still a lot of money in my opinion, but also this could depend on the Euros as well, as if he is on the plane with England for the Euros and he really does impress, maybe the fee will go up, maybe if he doesn't have a great campaign it will go down, who knows. Of course, I'm sure the likes of Manchester United and all the other clubs that have been linked with Sancho will be very excited about this news, and I'm sure that we will be hearing a lot more reports about the clubs that are interested in him. But what about Dortmund? How are they going to replace Sancho? I mean, you look at this season, he's managed over 20 assists, 16 goals. They're going to need somebody that can replace him, not just with his talent and what he can provide on the pitch, but also these numbers of goals and assists. And apparently, Dortmund believe that they found somebody. According to France Football, it is Lille's Jonathan Ikone. Now, the 23-year-old has only managed to get 7 goals and 7 assists this season, not the same level as Sancho, of course, but was a really vital cog in the machine with Lille and their campaign, of course, winning the league in France. He's reportedly at a fee of around 25 million euros, so definitely not too expensive for Dortmund, so he certainly could be an option. Of course, he's perhaps not on the same level as Sancho, but who's to say that he couldn't still have a really great career with Dortmund? But of course, Who's to say Sancho's even going to leave? As much as they've given him the green light, we're still unsure as to whether he is actually going to depart. But one thing that Dortmund will be considering is, of course, they do not want to repeat history like they did with Ousmane Dembele. He ended up making a last-minute move to Barcelona. They had to go on a shopping spree last minute. They will definitely want to avoid that, so it makes sense that they are already making plans for Sancho's departure. Next, we are heading to Italy with AC Milan, who are reportedly set to make their first summer signing. And it's a goalkeeper. The player in question is Mike Maignan. He kept 21 clean sheets in Liga this season and was a huge part of the Lille side that ended PSG's domestic dominance. According to Sky journalist Gianluca Di Marzio, the player is set to arrive in Milan today for a medical, and the fee for AC Milan will be around 15 million euros. And what this definitely means is that Gianluigi Donnarumma's future at AC Milan is certainly going to be up in the air. Donnarumma's contract is, of course, up this summer, and AC Milan have reportedly tried to have some negotiations with him. They allegedly are tired of waiting, and they have decided to make the move for a new goalkeeper. Of course, Donnarumma's agent is Mino Raiola. I'm sure he will have a few tricks up his sleeves, but surely this means the end of Donnarumma at AC Milan. It has already been reported by AS in Spain that Barcelona have been offered the player. Of course, their president Joan Laporta is good friends with Raiola, so this does make sense that they've maybe had discussions. But what does this mean for their goalkeeper Marc-Andre ter Stegen? Of course, we've talked about it on the Daily News before that Barcelona have been discussing a couple of players that could end up becoming dispensable. Marc-Andre ter Stegen was never one of these players. He's reportedly one of the players that they really do want to keep. But if Donnarumma is up for grabs for free, could they be tempted? Like I stated, Mike Maignan has had a great season with Lille. I can't imagine him going from being the #1 keeper for Lille, having such a great season with them, winning the title, to then make the move to AC Milan to just be sat on the bench whilst Donnarumma is still their first choice goalkeeper. And I can't see Donnarumma wanting to sit on the bench whilst Magnan's first choice, so it doesn't seem like the two of them can really coexist in Milan. So it definitely makes sense that Donnarumma will be departing. However, will Barcelona view getting rid of ter Stegen worth getting Donnarumma? We'll have to wait and see. But if Barcelona decide they want to keep ter Stegen, which I could potentially see happening because, like I say, he has been such an important piece of the puzzle for Barcelona over the years, which other clubs will actually be interested in signing 22-year-old Donnarumma? And finally, speaking of Barcelona, of course, as we've talked about before, there are a couple of players that could be heading out of the door this summer as their president, Joan Laporta, is set to restructure a few things at the club. And one player that could be heading out of the door to the Premier League is Junior Firpo. Now, when you think of a Barcelona player heading to the Premier League, you automatically think of maybe the top big 6 clubs. However, according to ESPN Deportes, the club that he could be heading to is actually Southampton. Now, Southampton, it's not been the best season for them. It definitely is understandable why they are looking at making some new signings, especially at left back, with Ryan Bertrand set to leave the club when his contract expires next month. Southampton have allegedly already made contact with Barcelona, as of course Junior Firpo does play in that position, but has barely made any appearances this season, as the likes of Jordi Alba and Serginho Dest are above him at the club. The main issue here will be if Firpo is interested in a move to Southampton. No disrespect to the club at all, but going from Barcelona to Southampton, it's a little bit of a step down. But if this does mean that he's going to get game time, he's going to be more of a star of the show, shall we say, he definitely could be interested. But the other issue here is going to be the money. Now, Southampton as a club, they've stated that they don't have the money to make any big signings. Now, Firpo on transfer market, his market value is about £9 million. So I guess if you're looking at it that way, they could potentially afford him. But I think that Barcelona will want to up the price a little bit from that and try and get some more money for him. So I'm not too sure if Southampton will actually be able to afford him. And finally, we have our transfer roundup. This is where I take a look at some of the other news and transfers going on in the footballing world. And first up, Barcelona. It looks like they are opening new contract talks with Ousmane Dembele. Of course, his current contract does run out in the summer of 2022. Gareth Southgate has delayed his England squad announcement for the Euros. Of course, everybody was expecting that today he would name his 26-man squad. He stated that because of injuries, because of English clubs being involved in the Europa League and Champions League finals, he wants to wait, so he's going to name a larger squad, which will then be refined to the number 26 by June 1st. Luis Suarez has stated that he would like to stay at Atletico Madrid despite rumours of him making a return to Liverpool. And finally, according to reports in Italy, Juventus are open to selling their 30-year-old midfielder Aaron Ramsey. So that's it for today's OneFootball Daily News. As always, check out all the other content that we've got here, get involved in the comments, and until next time, I'll see you all later.